Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Christopher's going to be teaching you an original etude that he wrote in the Campanella style. Now, if you don't know what that is or what it entails, no worries. He's going to go ahead and break it down and explain it in detail at the beginning of the lesson. And he's also going to talk a little bit about how this song was composed from a theory standpoint, because as you guys have heard the piece now, it has a really unique sound, a sound that I would describe as ethereal. So it's really quite interesting to hear a little bit about how he achieved that tonality. Now, let's take a step back and let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Chris is going to be teaching you how to play the entire piece. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for fingerpicking etude number 31. You could also type Campanella Etude. It should pop up that way as well. And also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tabs scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chris to teach you how to play this, and then I'll catch you at the end of the video.
Hello friends, this is Christopher Davis-Shannon with Rock Class 101, and this week I have written an etude for you based around one of my favorite left-hand techniques, Campanella. A campanella means little bells in Italian and is a technique that we borrow from the Baroque guitar world. A Baroque guitar, which is strung with gut strings, as well as on uke with nylon or fluorocarbon strings, we are constantly battling having enough sustain or how long the notes are. What we do with campanella is we avoid consecutive notes on the same string to allow the strings to ring out longer and run into each other a little bit. So while everything in this etude is essentially an eighth note, just half a beat long, we're going to allow all of the notes to ring out as long as possible so that the notes run into each other and give us the semblance of chords. Now the other thing that we need to know going into this etude is it's not in major or minor. This is a modal piece that really lays somewhere in C Lydian, which really just means C and G had a bit of a baby together. So we do almost C major with an F sharp. And you'll note that we have some other accidentals as we go through the piece, but I don't want you to think of this as it is in major or minor. We are in a mode here of C major, C Lydian. So it's going to be a slightly new tonality for you. Let's get started. The A section of this tune sets up the idea of campanella really well by using essentially rolls on the instrument. So we're going to start out with all open except our first finger on the second fret of the E string, our F sharp right there. So that's kind of our chord that's here. We can think it as C6 with a sharp 11 in here, but don't think too much about chords as we go through here. Think about the individual notes. So our basic pattern here is where we go C string, E string, G string, A string. Remember that I noted in the beginning, we want to just let these ring out as long as possible. And we're going to repeat this pattern 4 times in the first line. So it will sound like this. And here at the end, how all of the notes are running into each other. That's the sort of sound we want. We want to hear that dissonance. Now with the right hand, you can see that I am alternating with my thumb between the C string and the G string, and I'm using my first finger and second finger on the E string and the A string. I think that whatever is comfortable for you is absolutely fine. If you generally play standard classical guitar position and just using the thumb on the G string and playing, this is absolutely fine as well. Or if you want to alternate the thumb on the low strings, that's fine too. You need to find the position that's comfortable for you and stick on that finger picking pattern because we're going to use it quite a bit throughout. Now the next line is going to be the same exact pattern. We're just changing the bass note. So I want you to leave that first finger right where it is. And we're just going to take our ring finger and put it on the 4th fret of our C string, giving us an E. Now we could play this line as this. Those are the notes that are on the page. But because we're utilizing Campanella in here, we're going to play the same exact roll that we were doing before. C string, E string, G string, A string. So instead of hearing, we hear So let's listen to those first two lines. Same right hand pattern, we're just changing one note. Then the E. And then we're just going to continue changing this bass note. Right hand pattern remains the same. We're going to come down to a D sharp now. So the 3rd fret of our C string and do the same thing. Same pattern. And then we're going to come down and we're going to do the D on the C string here, the 2nd fret. So we're going to have to change how we're playing the F sharp because playing this position is not very comfortable. I like to reach my ring finger around. So we're coming from the E. We have ring finger, middle finger, and then the middle finger slides down and the ring finger comes over to capture that F sharp, giving us a D major chord. Really, we're just adding our G to that. So we can hear this little pattern growing. And then down to the D sharp. And now down to the D. So let's try the entire A section together now. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now our B section is going to start out the same and we're going to have a little variation. We're going to add on top of those arpeggios that we were just doing to bring a little more interest to the tune. So the first measure should look very familiar. We have that C roll with the sharp 11th in there, but then we're going to slide on up. We're going to go open, 6, 7, open. And the notes this is going to give us are B, that F sharp on the C string now, and still G and A. So our picking pattern is now going to change. We're going to go E string, C string, G string, A string. And although we're playing notes that are essentially just going, we could do down here, when we have them run together, we get that nice sonorous sound as opposed to the plunky sound that we can sometimes get out of a soprano instrument. So let's just listen to those first two measures of this. Should probably come up here with your ring finger and your middle finger because in the next measure, we're just going to change one note. We're going to add our pinky on the 8th fret of the E string here. And then back to the 7th fret. So just one note between these. Let's listen to this first line and see how it all sounds. Here we're always letting those strings just ring out. Now, the line's going to continue as we did in the A section. We're going to move up to an E now. So we're going to open, 4, 2, open. That's going to be our position that we start with. First measure is the same as we did above. But they're going to slide up to open, 6, 8, open. And much like with what we did in the previous part, we're just going to be changing the note on the E string each time. We're going to go the 8th fret, 10th fret, 7th fret. I like to use ring finger, pinky, middle finger, leaving this first finger on the F sharp on my C string, the 6th fret, the entire time. Especially in Campanella, we want to keep those common tones, those notes that are the same between chords as much as possible because that's going to allow those notes to ring out. If we're constantly changing the finger that we're using, we're going to lose that smooth connected sound. Since we're really not playing chords in here, we'll start to get space in between those notes and we want to keep everything ringing together. So let's listen to these next 4 bars here. So we get And then we come down to our D sharp. We know this measure already. We did this in the first section. We're just going to do it 4 times now. All right, so let's listen to those first 3 lines of the B section before we add in the final line where we finally wrap things up in this first main theme. So our first little section sounds like this. Down to the E. We hang out on the D sharp. Now we finally have our first chord, which we can think of as a C add 9 with a sharp 11. Again, don't worry too much about the chords in this song. Think about the individual notes and just the overall sound. What we're going to do is voice open, open, 2-5, but we're going to pluck the A string and the C string first. And then the E string, that F sharp, and then a G, and then we have an A, but we're not going to play our open A string this time. We're going to play the 5th fret of our E string. And why is this? Because we look ahead to the next measure. We're going to play this C on the 3rd fret of our A string. So we want to avoid those consecutive notes. So we're going to displace that A instead of playing it open, play it on the 5th fret. So let's listen to this measure. And then we're on this C, and you can grab that with your middle finger. And then we're walking down. But again, in a Campanella way. So we're going to go C on the 3rd fret of our A string, B on the 4th fret of our G string, and then the pinky reaching around to get the 5th fret of the E string again for that A, open G, and then we're going to play essentially a D major chord. We're going to ignore the G string, and we're 2, 2, 5. That should sound familiar. Finally, we have a familiar chord here. So let's listen very slowly to what this little 4-bar phrase sounds like, and then we'll piece together the entire B section and do it together. And just pluck those 2 up top, the E string and the A string. So let's try this whole B section now. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now our C section is a little 8-bar section, presenting us with some new material, but still keeping that bass line that we've been doing the whole time here. We're going to see that as a recurrent theme throughout. So we're going to pluck the C string and the A string, but we're going to put our pinky on the 7th fret on the E up top here. So we finally get that major 3rd against the tonic. It sounds like a C major now, but then we're going to ruin it with an F sharp. An F sharp throughout. So we're going to have a bit of a reach here. You're going to use your pinky and your first finger to grab that F sharp on the 2nd fret of the E string. And again, that A is now going to be on the 5th fret of the E string because our next melody note is on the A string again. So let's just listen to that first measure. And then as this comes, we're going to reach around to this next chord. It's going to be the 4th fret of your C string, the E, and then the D with the pinky on the 5th fret of the A string. This is sort of an E minor 7th chord is what we're listening to. As we add in the F sharp, an E minor 9 chord is really what we're playing here. So our first 2 measures sound like this. Again, relying on that A. Everything in the back half of the measure is exactly the same. We're just changing the chord up front. And then we're going to come down to this chord voicing here. Open, 3, 2, 3. This is sort of a C diminished chord. Again, we're not terribly concerned about the chords here, but we have a diminished sort of sound. We're going to play 3, 3 on the C string and the A string. And then the back half's the same, right? F sharp on the E string, G and A. But now we're going to use the open A this time instead of the 5th fret. And this is what can get confusing in this exercise, is many times we're playing the same exact note in different locations, just a measure or two apart from each other. So let's listen to this measure. And then we're going to resolve our last melody note here is the B on the 7th fret of our E string. Yes, we could play right here. We've already played it right here as well. But this is going to enable us to have those open strings still and let things ring out. Let's listen to that first line, and then we have a similar thing in the second half of this section. And hear how we can hear the G string, the A string, and that B on the 7th fret all ringing out at once. Now the next measure is exactly the same as what we just did. The only difference is we're not going to put down the E this time. We're going to keep this open C string. Rest of the measure is the same. We're just keeping that pedaled C or that constant C underneath. And then we're going to come down to this chord where we go skip the G string, 2 open 3, and we're going to do a pull off on the A string. When we can't avoid those consecutive notes in Campanella, pull offs, hammer-ons, and slides are another way that we can really even out the sound. So let's listen to this measure. Then we're going to a B7th chord, right? We have 4, 3, 2, open, just a regular old B7th chord. And why does this work? Well, E minor and C Lydian are very, very related keys. They have the same key signature, so they are going to share a lot of the same chords, and we can borrow from one. So let's listen to this second line of the C section, then we'll try the whole C together. Just adding that B right on the end. Now let's try the whole C section. 1, 2, 1, 2. And the D section finally gives us some rhythmic variation here. We're going to be starting this out with an 8th note triplet. So our rhythm will be triplet 2, 1 and 2 and triplet 2, 1 and 2 and triplet 2 and 1 and 2 and that's going to be a consistent rhythm for the next few measures of the piece. If we get it once, we're good. And we're going to be starting out with open 6, open 5. But we're going to be rolling backwards. We're going to go E string, C string, G string, A string. Right, this is really our E minor 11th chord again that we were doing down here, just in a different voicing of the chord. And then we're going to follow it up with the F sharp and the G on the end of 1 and then 2 end. So we're going to have F sharp, G, F sharp. Let's listen to this and then it repeats twice. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just changing one note. We're going to go up to the 7th fret of the A string. Still an E chord, right? That's an E up there. So this is still our E 9th chord. We're just using the tonic up top here. Same rhythm, same pattern. We're just changing one note. All right, so let's listen to those first 2 lines of the D section, just really to get the rhythm in our ear. That's the key here. And now we're changing something. We're going to have a bit of a stretch. So we're going to go up to this position here. And I want you to get used to actually playing this full chord here, because we want to try our best to get to this full position. And it's going to be 9, 6, 7, 10. So ring finger, first finger, middle finger, pinky. That's going to be our chord here. And we're going to come down the A string, G string, E string, and then release it so we have that same, like the F sharp and the G is going to be here. So let's listen to that bar right there. All right, and then we're going to change. We're going to keep the ring finger and the pinky exactly where they are. but we're going to take the first finger and put it on the 5th fret of the E string. So our voicing will now be, this is a big stretch here. I'm sorry, tenor players. I play soprano. We're going to have 9, 6, 5, 9. That's going to be our position. And we're going to do really the same thing. So let's watch those hand positions. I'm going to play this very slowly for you. All right, so that's our next 4 bars. And I think this is probably the hardest position of the whole thing in practice. Getting between these two right here, just swapping the middle and first finger, and that's going to help a whole lot because this is a big position stretch. And then we're going to have another scale run, but again, campanella, so it's going to be kind of illogical. We'll do open G, open A, and then the 7th fret of our E string. That's our B, right? Reach around for the 5th fret of our G string, giving us a C. So let's listen to that first line. We're just walking up a scale, right? Back to the A, back to the B on the 7th fret. And then we're going to lay down the 5th fret as a bar here so that we can get the 5th fret of the G string to the 5th fret of the A string. And then 7th fret of the E, giving us that B again, back to the C, and then our 9-9 up top on the A string and the G string. Let's listen to that line. I'm going to play it nice and slowly for you so you can hear it, but also watch my fingers here. The fingering is very important. Reach the pinky up. All right, so let's listen to this entire D section now, and then we'll try it together. Let's try that D section together. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we're rounding the bend to the end, and finally, we're going to get some chords here. Some full chords. So we're going to be starting out on a C major 7 with a sharp 11. What is that? That is a C, a G, an F sharp, and a B. If we had an E, it would be nice, but we can't really voice everything. That would be our full chord if we wanted to have a C, E, F sharp, and B. We're going to play open, open, 2, 2. It's a very open sound. And then we're going to have a little bass line going on underneath this. And much with the other sections of this, remember, the chords need to ring out throughout the line. So let me just play this first line for you so you can hear the general feel of this section. All right, and those last few measures are going to be the same throughout a lot of this. We're just going to have different chords over top. So what are we doing? We strum that C major 7, sharp 11. And then open G string is sort of going to be our drone here. Open G, and then our F sharp's already down on the 2nd fret of our E string. Always back to the G, and then back to our E on the 4th fret of our C string. Back to the F sharp on the 2nd fret of the E string. Always back to the G. And then your bar is going to reach over. Think about playing just a G major 7th here. This is the same chord. We're not actually there yet. We're going to set this up prematurely because we need this D right here. So open, 2, 2, 2. Add the middle finger to get the D sharp to the F sharp. So let's listen to this first line one more time. Slide the bar over. And then all we're going to do is lift up the middle finger. Our next chord is, in fact, that G major 7th, which you've likely played before. And after that, the rest of the line's exactly the same. And then finally, our E minor 9 that we played before. Open 4, 2, 2. And the rest line is the same until we get to the very end because we need to resolve this. So let's listen to this line. All right, so let's look at just that last lick. So we have 3 on the C string, our D sharp, F sharp, open G. Then we're going to slide that first finger up to the 7th fret of our E string, that B, and then finally ending on the F sharp on the 9th fret of our A string. So let's listen to just that last run. Very open and ambiguous sound. Let me play the whole E section for you. Then we'll try it together. There's a lot of repetition in here, and always be aware of the repetition that's going on so we're not relearning the same thing over and over. Let's give that a shot together. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now the F section should look mighty familiar. What we're doing is recapitulating the main theme from the very beginning to end the song, bringing material that we already know back. We're going to start just where we did in the beginning with that basic roll with just the F sharp down. And then we go up to the E on the 4th fret. It's our E minor 9. Down to the D sharp. Then our final chord is going to be C major 7, sharp 11. Open C, and then the B on the 7th fret of the E string, and the 9th fret up top. That's our final chord. Let's listen to the F section, then we'll try it together. This is mostly stuff that you already know. We just need that final chord in there. Let's try that last bit together. 1, 2, 1, 2. I hope you all have enjoyed this little song, and this will be a real challenge for both the left and right hand. It doesn't give you the typical picking patterns that we're used to, and many times our ears and our hands get used to playing linearly or up the string. And this forces us outside of that box, as well as to play notes in locations on the fingerboard that maybe we're not so used to. Even if you never aspire to play this Campanella style, it's a great technique to have in your toolbox so that you can force yourself up and down the fingerboard and to think of musical ideas in a new way.
All right, guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a ton of fun. A very unique sounding piece played with a really awesome playing style, Campanella. So a lot to take away from this week's lesson. Now, guys, I wanted to give you a friendly reminder that if you wanted to get the tabs to print off, keep for your records, that was available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for fingerpicking etude number 31. You could also type Campanella Etude. That should pop up the lesson as well. And don't forget that that really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer is also on that page. So you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.